And hello from Los Angeles. It's your reality check. Well, in an embarrassment to the German government, the Dalai Lama, in his 36th visit to Germany, made unwelcome political remarks toward his former Chinese government. You see, during difficult global economic times, Germany, like the United States, is terrified of losing even 1 cent of Chinese investment money, so much so that the German premier, in an awkward homage, even donned a billowing yellow scarf over his expensive German business suit.
Some part of our brain, which usually common sense develop, that part of brain missing some of these hardliner Chinese leaders. They cannot, they are not using common sense.
Well, if you want Chinese investment dough, you'd best not put your Dalai Lama on the network TV. And speaking of protocol gaffes, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, traveling to Africa, answered questions from student journalists between one of her rehearsed speeches.
Wait, you want me to tell you what my husband thinks? My husband is not the Secretary of State. I am. So you ask my opinion, I will tell you my opinion. I'm not going to be channeling my husband.
Oh, my. Well, U.S. Congressman Dennis Kucinich is asking much-needed questions about why bailed-out banks are not lending the taxpayers' money back to the taxpayers. Turns out the Fed, which is not part of the federal government, but nonetheless has full access to the Treasury, is paying banks interest payments to not lend back the billions in bailout cash.
The Fed is paying banks higher interest rates now to keep their funds parked at the Fed instead of loaning the money to the American people. Is that not true?
Yes, and the reason I opened up the book is that on page 142 of our chart, of our report, we actually have a chart that depicts exactly what you're saying.
Check it out. Unemployment's skyrocketing. Businesses can't get money, so they're laying off more people. Meanwhile, the Fed is paying banks a premium to keep their money parked at the Fed instead of loosening it up. This is one fraud after another.
Oops. Well, in medical news, small whistleblower leaks suggest that pharmaceutical giant Baxter, which owns the new swine flu vaccine, say both Baxter and Swiss company Novartis may have funded the development and the release of the swine flu virus in order to justify mass vaccinations across the U.S. and Europe. Now, what makes this swine flu strain so controversial is it contains 5 components that would never naturally find each other in nature. Carried on the BBC, but not in America, the National Institutes of Health plan to inject 150 million Americans with the still untested vaccine.
Right up at the very top of the list, as you mentioned, are pregnant women. But right beneath them are what we call the household contacts or caregivers of infants, namely young individuals 6 months and less. And the reason for that is that you can't vaccinate infants, so you want to protect them by making sure the caregivers or the people who are responsible for them in the home are vaccinated.
Vaccinating the babysitter, but not grandma, will be a first since it's always the vulnerable elderly who are first advised to get vaccinations.
I've fallen and I can't get up. I need help.
But the official CNN broadcast says weakened old people are declared immune to swine flu, unlike strong, healthy people.
Unlike the regular flu shot, Americans over the age of 65 aren't on the priority list because they're believed to have built up immunities that will protect them against the H1N1 virus strain.
Meanwhile, CNN is now making it official, saying the Pentagon is planning deployment of military troops to assist in nationwide swine flu vaccinations by militarizing public health. This fall, under the direction of Northern Command, a special military branch established by Dick Cheney in 2002 and housed in NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain Range. Speaking of security, Disneyworld in Orlando, Florida, has erected these friendly-looking security towers now hovering over parking areas where the public is seen in wide-open spaces. But something about Mickey Mouse ears on an elevated guards tower makes it feel like the happiest surveillance on Earth. Speaking of which, security at the Pentagon has taken to new levels of preposterosity. Not only are Defense Department employees no longer allowed to tweet on Twitter, but Facebook has to go away too. This on the tail of the DoD ban of the toy Furby, capable, the Pentagon says, of spying for the Chinese. Let me try to explain this in 5-star military terms, if I may.
The toy Furby, which can repeat a child's simple words, is being banned from agents and offices at the National Security Administration in Washington. The NSA says the doll is actually a high-tech spy device. Judge for yourself.
Okay, maybe.
Furby's PR man, who himself sounds like a Furby, thinks his fuzzy gnomes sitting atop a secretary's desk is hardly a national security risk.
Furby has long operated with real artificial intelligence, and we're just not sure what's going on in Washington with regard to theirs.
Well, there's your reality check. You can visit us anytime at GoHarrison.com and on Facebook and Twitter, keyword GoHarrison.
Visit or email Harrison on the web at GoHarrison.com.